Hi, I'm Kaylee, and I think I'm probably insane because I've chosen way too many books to be on my TBR for July. Yeah, I think I kind of lost my mind there a little bit, and I just kept putting more and more books into my TBR, and now that I look at it, it's a little bit overwhelming. But I'm just so excited about each one of these books, I just don't see how I can take any of them off the list. Before we dive into all the books that are on my TBR, I'm gonna reach back here to our Booktuber Shoutout book, and we're gonna shout out somebody randomly. Today's shout out goes to Break Even Books. I will leave a link to their channel in the description. Be sure to go over and subscribe to them. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumbs up if sometimes your TBR is a little bit overwhelming. And of course, follow me over on Goodreads and Storygraph and all the places. So if you watched my other video about my yearly reading goals and a video that I did about how I organize my reading in Notion, then you know that I have a monthly TBR list, and then I check off those books as I read them through the month. Or maybe I would just take that book and stick it on next month's TBR list. But somehow the list for July just kept getting bigger and bigger. For one thing, I'm participating in not one, not two, but 3 different readathons in July. We have Jane Austen July, which is an absolute must participate readathon every year. Then we have the Journeyathon, which is a middle grade readathon. And of course, I love reading middle grade. And then we have a new readathon this year called Private Eye July. And it just sounds like so much fun that of course I had to join in at the last minute. I also have kind of a leftover book that was a possibility on my TBR for the June Journeys with Inklings readathon last month. So I kind of have like a leftover from last month's readathon. It has just gotten completely out of hand. Let's get into some of the statistics with this TBR because I thought, okay, let me just be realistic here. Can I actually read this TBR in the next, what is it? How many days that are left in July? Like 29 days, okay? In the next 29 days, can I actually read these books? So unfortunately, my TBR is 21 books. 21 books in 29 days. Have I lost my mind? Yes, I think so. I think it's safe to say that, I've gone off the deep end and, I've lost it. And then I went even further and counted up the pages. So it comes to a total of 4,951 pages for all of those books. Now I will say about 1,200 pages will just be manga. So that's easy and quick to read. But 3,682 pages are solid books. So some that are faster reads, some that are slower reads, but still, that's almost 5,000 pages in 29 days, and it's just kind of ridiculous. So, did a little math and figured out I have to read about 170 pages per day if I want to actually make this TBR work. This TBR is not going to work, okay? This is just, why do I do this to myself? I don't know. But as always, I don't take these things too seriously. If I manage to read all that in July, then great. If not, I'll just roll it over to August or September or whatever. It's always fun to have goals and be like, what if I could achieve 170 pages per day? Wouldn't that be cool? But also I don't have to do that. This is all just for fun. With all of these goals staring me in the face, I decided I had to make a little chart for myself. For each day in July, I can check off how many pages did I read and try somewhat, at least try to stay on track and try to read 170 pages a day. Whether I will actually do that, well, who knows? Without further ado, let's just get into the books. So my leftover from the June Journeys with Inklings readathon is Dorothy Sayers' The Mind of the Maker. I have had this on my TBR for years, and finally the June Journeys readathon seemed like the perfect time to dive in with it. But then I was reading other stuff, and so this one kind of got, set aside. But this one just kind of kept staring at me from the shelves. And the last week of June, once I had finished a bunch of the other goals for June, I was like, maybe I'll just take a little peek. And of course I dove in and just absolutely loved it. So I'm up to page 40 so far, and it's wonderful. It's very dense. I kind of have to stop after every paragraph and think, oh my goodness, I never realized that before, or I never thought of it from that perspective before. It is just blowing my mind. And it's wonderful to be continuing on with some more Inklings reading and extending the Readathon. That's the great thing about the June Journeys with Inklings Readathon, is you can extend your reading really past the month of June as long as you need to finish whatever Inkling related books you wanted to read. So the other Inkling related reading that I'm still doing is I'm listening to the audiobook of The Two Towers, and I'm going to continue on and listen to the audiobook of Return of the King. So these I have not counted in my page goal because audiobooks, don't have pages. But I'm kind of doing The Lord of the Rings just on its own separate little timeline. So I haven't really included it in the statistics and the numbers for July. So if you include those, then it's actually 23 books that I'm trying to get read in July. It just got more insane. Then, of course, we have Jane Austen July, which I look forward to and plan for every year. And this year I am continuing with my own personal challenge to read all of Jane Austen in Spanish, since I am bilingual and Spanish is my second language. And this year I'm going to be reading Persuasion. I am so excited to dive into Persuasion, but in a different language. You get this little bit of a different perspective and just to see how things are translated. I have so loved reading Jane Austen in Spanish the last couple of years, so I'm really looking forward to it this year as well. One of the prompts for Jane Austen July is to read a contemporary of Jane Austen's, and for that I'm going to be diving into Belinda by Mariah Edgeworth. I have never read anything from this author before, but I have heard her talked about kind of in conjunction with Jane Austen. I know absolutely nothing about this book. I don't know what the plot is. I don't know anything. I'm just diving into it blind like I do with most classics, because if you read the synopsis, then sometimes there are spoilers, and I just want to come into it with a fresh slate and no expectations. It's a bit of a chunky book though. It's 500 pages. So, that's not huge as classics go, but considering the other 21 books on my TBR, diving into a 500-page classic might not have been the best decision for this particular month. I don't care. We're doing it. I love it. I'm excited. We're going to make it work. Then I have a book which is sort of Jane Austen July adjacent, but it doesn't fulfill any of the actual prompts. This is Tooth and Claw by Jo Walton. Now, the reason that I say that this is Jane Austen adjacent is because of the blurb at the back. It says, this is the Pride and Prejudice of the Dragon World. Now, that little blurb has kind of confused me. First of all, because the author actually says in the beginning, this novel owes a lot to Anthony Trollope's family parsonage. The author took their inspiration from Anthony Trollope, who was a Victorian author, not Regency. And so the blurb doesn't know what it's talking about, but it sounds flashy and gimmicky to say the Pride and Prejudice of the Jane Austen world. So I don't know whether to call it Jane Austen adjacent or what, but I've had this one on my TBR all year, and so apparently July is the month to dive in. And it's actually, I first picked this up, you guys are gonna laugh, but I first picked this up because in the Twilight series, Bella Swan mentions this book as one of her favorite books. So there's a scene in Midnight Sun where Edward Cullen is asking Bella Swan, what are some of your favorite books? And she responds, with a whole big long list of wonderful books. And the only one that I had never heard of before was Tooth and Claw. So of course, I had to take a reading recommendation from Bella Swan. I'm just reevaluating all of my life decisions now. Why am I doing this to myself? All right, next we get into my TBR for the Journeyathon. So this is a readathon focusing on middle grade books, And they have like this whole game board and a map and all these different prompts and like different points that you can do. It's kind of like playing a board game. There are these different kind of levels that you can choose which journey you want to go on. Depending on how many books you choose to read for the Journeyathon, that determines kind of what journey you're going to take. And then that kind of shows where you are in the map. So I'm just doing the easiest one. I'm just going to read 3 middle grade books, and I'm not trying to do a bunch of points and follow the prompts and all this. I'm just reading 3 middle grade books. I'm just keeping it simple. And that's kind of the beauty of Journeyathon, is you can do it as simple as you want, or you can get all into it and make it as complex as you want. So one of my wrapped books is Habibi. And as you can see over the last couple of days, the first couple of days of July, I've already been reading a bit, and I only have a little bit left to go. I have mixed feelings about this one so far. I have enjoyed parts of it. There are parts that I have really not enjoyed. So we shall see if they can stick the landing. Then maybe I will like it. And then my other 2 middle grade are books that I received from a publisher in exchange for a free and honest review. So I have Giant by Judith McCoy. So this is Davy, a working class boy, and he meets a young C.S. Lewis. Unfortunately, this book did not arrive in the mail in time to be for the June Journeys with Inklings. So we're just reading it now. We're just continuing the Inklings readathon for like the whole summer, apparently. So it says, together the friends adventure through worlds of imagination, and Davy discovers his artistic talents. This looks really interesting. I kind of don't know what to expect with this, but it sounds like just an interesting exploration of imagination. And then we have Solo, which is apparently about a flautist, a musician of some kind. It says, Daisy's first love is music, and her second was David. So of course I had to pick this up because I'm a musician and I love books about musicians. Actually, now that I look at it, that is not a flute. That's a recorder. Yeah, she's playing a little recorder. Oh, and it has a recorder on the spine too. Okay, how did I not see that? So what's interesting about this is it's told in some sort of poetic style. And all of the chapters have musical terms as the chapter title. So for instance, this chapter is entitled Baroque. And this one says block harmony. And I see one that says allegro and pianissimo and molto. So these are all familiar terms to me because I'm a musician. So I know those Italian and French and sometimes German musical terms that you would typically see in classical music. So this just looks like something utterly unique. I don't think I've ever seen a novel told in quite this style before. I just don't know what to expect. I don't quite know what to make of this, but I'm excited to dive in. Then we have Private Eye July. So this one has some kind of specific parameters. A private eye is a detective, like an amateur detective, that is not working for the police, but that accepts money from clients in order to, solve mysteries and stuff. So for example, Miss Marple does not count for this readathon because she doesn't take clients, but Poirot does count because he has clients and accepts money. So for this readathon, I am reading a Poirot mystery. I will take any excuse to read more from Poirot. This one is Evil Under the Sun. So I've already read the first little 40 pages because I just couldn't wait to dive in. And as soon as I started reading, I remembered the setting from the Poirot TV show with David Suchet. So I remember the episode because he was on vacation on this hotel that's on an island. However, it's just been years and years since I watched the TV show, and so I don't remember who done it. And of course, I just adore Poirot so much. Well, I already had another book that was supposed to be on my TBR for July, and I wanted it to be for Private Eye July because it is an amateur detective, but this one does not accept money from clients, so it doesn't actually fit the parameters of the Private Eye July readathon. So I'm just gonna say it's readathon adjacent. It's Aunt Dimity and the Summer King. This is the 20th book in the series, and I think there's 24 total. I love the Aunt Dimity series. It is so ridiculous and completely dorky. It's super stupid, and I love it. It's just so cute. So Aunt Dimity is a ghost. And she talks to her goddaughter, Lori, through this little notebook that they write back and forth to each other in this journal. And in every book, Lori has some sort of mystery, some sort of strange happening in their neighborhood. And she pokes around because she's very nosy. And Dimity helps her to solve these little mysteries. And of course, I had to read it in the summer because it's the Summer King. So I'm going to say it's like Private Eye July adjacent. It's Readathon adjacent, but it doesn't actually fit for the Readathon. Then there are 2 more books that I have from my Wrapped Books Challenge. I have The Flirt. This is by Booth Tarkington. You can't even see, but it says on there, The Flirt. Here we go. There's a picture of her kissing herself in the mirror, and the caption says, "You darling." I don't know if she's flirting with other people or if she's flirting with herself, but this sounds completely ridiculous and fun. Now, this one is from 1913. I have just been loving diving more and more this year into these turn-of-the-century classics. And the other one from my Wrapped Books is The Princess of the Midnight Ball by Jessica Day George. I love Jessica Day George, so I have really high expectations for this one because I've read so many other books by this author that I really like. And it's a reimagining of the 12 Dancing Princesses. I'm kind of expecting that I'll just fly right through this one because I do love a fairy tale retelling. Then I have some yearly goals for the whole year of certain series that I'm trying to get through by the end of the year. And one of those is Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard. This is the first book, The Sword of Summer. So I've been rereading through a bunch of my favorite Percy Jackson and Heroes of Olympus, and now I'm diving into some new to me Rick Riordan. So I've never read Magnus Chase before. So I'm just really, really excited to go on even further adventures. And I feel like I've learned a lot from Percy Jackson about the Greek and Roman legends, and now we get into Norse mythology. This is another one where, although it is quite lengthy, I expect to just fly right through it because I know that I love Rick Riordan and because his books tend to be more lighthearted and very funny, and I always get really immersed into the story and the adventure. So I bet I could fly through this pretty quickly, maybe in 2 or 3 days. The other series that I want to read this year is the Reawakened series by Colleen Houck. So I've already read the Tiger's Curse series and really loved it. And I've had this series just kind of sitting there on my shelves for years. And it is finally time to dive in and get them all read. So there are 4 books in this series, and I'm hoping to read all of them this year. Whereas Tiger's Curse was set in India and had a lot of Indian mythology and everything, this one is set in Egypt. So I'm all about the mythology, apparently, lately. We get the Greek and Roman, and then the Norse mythology, and Indian, and now Egyptian mythology. And I'm also going to continue reading through the Ouran High School Host Club manga series. In July, I want to read volumes 7 through 12, and then in August, I'm going to read volumes 13 through 18, so that way in July and August, I'll finish up the whole series. This is one of my favorite manga. I've really been enjoying rereading through it. I'm already halfway through this one, and this is just so lighthearted and fun and silly, and those are the books that I'm hoping to be reading in July. Please leave me a comment and let me know, have you just really overloaded your TBR? And you're just like, what am I doing to myself with all of this? But the books are calling your name, and you cannot resist that siren's call. Leave us a comment and let us know what books are on your TBR for July. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.